Libertarianism is pro-immigration, pro-market, pro-trade.
More competitive, less centralized. Not military confrontations, but peaceful interaction.
The war on drugs has been actually an unmitigated disaster.
Lesson for your country as well. I think we can provide you a lesson of a country that was really rich, because Venezuela was the most developed nation in Latin America, and a country that right now is the worst country of Latin America. A country that is in fact experiencing the worst economic crisis in the history of the modern history of the Western Hemisphere. So I think we as Venezuelans, we can at least say what happened to us. We can tell you our history, we can tell you our political and economic collapse, and that way I think we can prevent other nations to fall into the same miseries that we have. I don't know if Dominic introduced me, but I'm the president of an organization called Venezuelan Alliance, and we are doing exactly that. We're trying to educate and we're trying to raise awareness about the importance of free and democratic institutions. And we use Venezuela as our case study. We use Venezuela as our case study because I think Venezuela represents exactly that. A country that was extremely rich, extremely democratic, and because of bad policies, because of bad institutions, because of bad decisions by both the state and by the public, we became a horrible, horrible country. So let's first talk about the economic collapse of Venezuela. Okay, just seeing the message. Let's talk first about the economic collapse of Venezuela. How difficult are things in Venezuela? How horrible, how much destruction has received the Venezuelan economy? Let's give you some examples. Since 2013, the Venezuelan economy has declined by more than 50% of the GDP per capita. So more than 50% of the GDP per capita have declined in a period of 5 years. Just let's put in comparison with other economic collapse. For example, the Great Depression. In the Great Depression, that collapse was by half, was 25% of GDP per capita. The same was with the Greek crisis a few years ago, and with the civil war in Spain in the 30s. So Venezuela is double. The Venezuelan collapse is double the Great Depression, the Spanish Civil War, and the Greek crisis. On the top of that, Venezuela has the highest inflation, not only of all countries right now, but the highest inflation in the history of our hemisphere. The IMF projected 10 million % inflation rate by the end of this year. Just to give you an example, the worst inflation rate that we had in Latin America was in the 80s, Bolivia, that was 25,000%. So we are already in the worst economic crisis in the history of our hemisphere, and we have the worst hyperinflation in the history of our hemisphere. As a result, Venezuela had the highest misery index, not in Latin America, but in the world, and by far, because we have 90% of our people in poverty, and 61% of our people in extreme poverty. So people are really suffering. And that's why our people have lost, on average, more than 20 pounds in the last year. Just to give you an example, just to buy 12 eggs in Venezuela, you need to work 300 days. It's just mind-blowing. It's just mind-blowing. Because minimum wage is $6. $6 per month. And because we have expropriated land, we have destroyed all the industry, we have destroyed our business, we have basically eliminated all the imports as well. It's very difficult to find food, medicines in Venezuela. And that's why you have people really starving, really having a difficult time. 70% of Venezuelans are not eating 3 times per day. 70%. So that creates problem, for example, of malnutrition in children. So 1 kid is dying every single day because of malnutrition in Venezuela. So the situation is really horrible. So as a result, millions of Venezuelans have fled the nation. Just in the last years, according to the UN, more than 3 million people have left the country. However, according to other estimates, for example, the estimates that the Center of International Development at Harvard University does, they estimated that more than 5 million Venezuelans have left. And they think that that's a moderate estimate. And as the UN, as well as them, are forecasting that Venezuela will lose 8 million people by the end of the year if we don't stop this crisis. And all these numbers are before last week. That last week was really, I think, the lowest point in the history of our country, in terms of our modern history, of course. It was really a difficult situation because on top of all this scenario that I'm telling you, because we didn't have electricity from Thursday to Tuesday. We didn't have electricity basically in 85% of the nation. What happened? Hospitals collapsed. Food got spoiled in refrigerators. And really the nation just was collapsing. It was at the verge of the collapse. You saw people really hard and difficult conditions. So that's one of the reasons that we in Venezuela, we are fighting to make a change in the country. Because this is simply too much. People are suffering, people are dying, people are having a really bad time. Which is incredible is that Venezuela is not only an economic collapse, it's not only an economic crisis, it's a really humanitarian crisis. Our hemisphere never saw something like this. We saw many economic collapses, we saw many recessions. For example, in Latin America, we have a very tough time in the 80s and in the 90s. In the 80s, for example, in Latin America, we call it the lost decade because we didn't grow as a result of high interest rates and because we had difficulty trying to export. And we never saw something like this. So what happened? What happened in Venezuela? The mainstream economists that they don't know about Venezuela, or the mainstream opinion is that Venezuela went to this economic collapse because of a fall in oil revenues, because of a fall in the oil prices, international oil prices in 2014. It's not true that that's the reason that Venezuela went into a collapse. It is true that it was a factor, but it is not true that it was the reason behind. Because you didn't see economic crisis or humanitarian crisis in other resource-rich nations or in other rentier states. You simply didn't see that. Moreover, Venezuela is in a recession since the third quarter of 2013, and oil prices began falling in the second quarter of 2014. And for example, oil prices collapsed, but then they spiked a little bit again. And on top of that, for example, when Chavez took power in 1998, a barrel of oil was $9 per barrel. And today is $60 per barrel. So there's no excuse. And just to give you a little bit of, to give you another statistic, when Chavez took power in 1998, we used to produce 3.5 million barrels per day of oil. Now we're producing less than 1 million. Why? Policies. They put the military in charge of the oil industry, so they have their support. So because, the military cannot run like engineers run an oil industry, they basically devastated the industry. And of course, corruption at the same time. So of course, it is true that the oil collapse and fall in the oil industry is partially responsible, but it's not the main issue. So what happened in Venezuela? Well, in Venezuela happened the same thing that happened in other nations that collapses. Bad policies by politicians, bad policies by the public sector. And a state and a public sector that was really collapsing the private sector, that expropriated many industries, that imposed price caps in almost all items, that really destroyed the independence of the central bank, that really destroyed the independence of all institutions. So that's the reason that Venezuela is in economic collapse right now. Bad institutions and bad policies. So which institution and which policies are we referring to when we are talking about this? So first, Chavez took power in 1998. Venezuela was in a difficult moment in history at that moment. In 1998, the mainstream political parties were collapsing in terms of popularity among the people. And the country was coming from 2 decades of not growing. Just to give you an example, Venezuela until the 1980s was the country that was growing, that grew more in the 20th century until the 1980s. And then from 1980 to 1988, the country did not grow, and in fact, the country lost 15% of GDP in those 2 decades. So as a result of that, as a result of people really upset with mainstream political parties at the time, people voted for an outsider, who was Chavez at the time. A guy who was outside the political parties, a guy who was outside the establishment at the time, and they voted for the guy. But what was the main problem? Is that Chavez wanted to rewrite the constitution. So he basically called for a constitutional assembly to rewrite the Venezuelan constitution, and that got approved. And I think that was the beginning of the end, because he rewrote the constitution in 2000. And what happened? Basically, all the institutions were reshaped. All the institutions will remake again and charged to control of this institution. And this new constitution gave the executive even more power than they had before. And I think that was the beginning of the end. So what happened after that? Then in 2002, he basically destroyed the independence of the oil industry. Before that, the Venezuelan oil industry, even though it was a state-owned oil industry, it was one of the most efficient ones. It was in terms of course it was public, of course it was state-owned, but it was efficient and it was a little bit independent, and it was really growing, it was really a good and efficient company. Chavez just destroyed all independence of PDVSA, the oil industry, and basically put politicians and the military to control. Why? Because Chavez wanted to spend in a discretionary way the resources of the oil industry. So that was in 2002. Then in 2003, he imposed a regulation, what we call capital controls and currency controls. So from that moment, Chavez and the executive branch basically could control all imports, all access to dollars, for example. And I think that was another huge mistake by them, because they achieved what they want. They wanted political control. So they used the economy to achieve political control over the private sector. Because when they imposed currency controls and when they imposed capital controls, then the private sector needed to ask for permission every time that they bought dollars, every time that they import, every time that they wanted to do business with someone outside the nation. So that really made another negative impact in the economy. So what happened? Why Chavez, if he was doing all this stuff, why Chavez was even gaining more popularity, why Chavez was even gaining more support from the people, because he actually had support. Well, the oil prices were really up at the time. As I told you, Chavez took power in 1998. A barrel of oil was under $10 per barrel. And just 10 years after that, it was more than $120 per barrel. So imagine the change in the budget of the government. Imagine the change in the revenue. At the same time, as I told you, Chavez can have discretionary use of that money. So with that, he bought social programs. With that, he started buying votes. With that, he started buying a political machinery that really gave him a huge support. Huge support. Just to give you an example, since Venezuela started refining oil at the beginning of the 20th century until Chavez, we received less dollars from oil revenues than in the period that Chavez was in power. Between 1998 and 2016, a few years after Chavez died in 2013, we received $1 trillion in oil revenues. $1 trillion. Imagine that. For a Latin American nation, that's a ton of money. And for politicians to spend, that's a ton of money. So he became very popular, not only inside Venezuela, but outside Venezuela. He started, for example, trying to build alliances with other socialist administration, other socialist movements in other countries of Latin America. He started building this coalition that he called the Unaligned Coalition against the US. And he started really having a strong support, not only inside Venezuela, but outside Venezuela, using the dollars of the oil industry. So with that strong revenue, Chavez was able to buy political support, and at the same time, the economy did not collapse, even though the policies were horrible. The policies were horrible, but at the same time, the economy did not collapse because it was a strong external positive shock by oil prices.